Hello everyone, welcome to the AdCup Show. Back in the 1980s, Japan was an economic giant, challenging US dominance with its booming tech and auto industries. By 1985, the US trade deficit with Japan hit $50 billion. That's about $140 billion in today's dollar. To counter this, the US, along with Japan, West Germany, France, and the UK, signed the Plaza Accord in 1985. This agreement pushed up the value of Japanese yen from 240 to 120 yen per dollar by 1987. Japanese exports became pricier, slowing growth and contributing to Japan's lost decades of stagnation in the 1990s. This entire facade completely destroyed Japan. Today, Japan is declining on every front, from social to political to economic, and America was directly responsible for this. This is something which America wants to do again with another Asian country because that country is growing pretty fast and it's not ready to listen to diktats of Uncle Sam, and that country is India. India's nominal GDP in 2025 is around $4.1 trillion, making it the world's fifth largest economy. Projections suggest India could hit $6 trillion by 2030 or even before that. At that level, India would rival economies like Germany and Japan, boosting its global clout. The bigger economy means more money for defense, infrastructure, and tech. The fear of America is that if India crosses $6 trillion, then the entire balance of power in South Asia will get disturbed, and India will not listen to diktats of America. Not to mention, America is already a declining power. India's growth is fueled by domestic consumption, which is more than 60% of its GDP, and a strong service sector like the IT and software, which employs millions. India's currency, the rupee, isn't fully convertible, so manipulating its value like the yen is tricky. India has got diverse trade partners like Russia, the Middle East, and ASEAN. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, India has become a top buyer of Russian crude, importing over 1.8 million barrels per day in 2023, up from just 100,000 before the war. That's a jump from 2.5% to 30%, or almost 40% of India's total oil imports. Russia offers discount of $10 to $20 per barrel, which keeps on fluctuating, saving India an estimated $7 to $10 billion in 2023 alone. This keeps fuel prices down, inflation in check, and industries humming. A combination of all these things is helping India a lot in rapid expansion of its economy, which is not seen as a positive development by America because India has very close relationship with Russia. The US has sanctioned Russia's energy sector to cut its war funding, including G7 price cap of $60 per barrel on Russian oil. India has complied with this cap using non-Western shipping to avoid penalties, but the US has still pushed India to cut back, with President Trump recently putting 25% additional tariff on Indian goods over this issue, bringing total tariffs to 50%, which is highest in the world currently. What to note in all this is that EU import of Russian gas and refined product hit $46 billion in 2023, often through third parties like Turkey or India's own refineries. US trade with Russia was $5.2 billion in 2024, down from $36 billion in 2021, but includes uranium and fertilizers, which are considered very critical. Then we have got China, who's doing non-stop trading with Russia, and America doesn't care about it. When America tried to put tariffs on China, then China stopped supplying the rare earth to America, and ultimately America had to reduce the tariffs. Unfortunately, India doesn't have that kind of leverage. This shows America's hypocrisy. Here's where it gets messy. Former US Ambassador Eric Garcetti admitted in 2023 that the US encouraged India to buy Russian oil to stabilize global prices, which spiked to $95 per barrel in 2023 after OPEC Plus cuts. Yet, Trump's recent tariff called out by India as unjustified suggests a shift. The real question is intent. Is the US using sanctions to control India's energy excess, or is it just enforcing its Russia policy? India and Russia share a very close relationship, and energy trade makes that relationship deeper. The energy trade which is happening between India and Russia is basically shockproof from external uncertainties. This provides India a cushion for its economy. Basically, America cannot influence or control the price in this case. So it wants to take India away from Russian energy and make India source its energy from the places which are controlled and prices are influenced by America. By doing this, America can influence and keep check on India's growth. America has almost failed to contain China, so it doesn't want to take any risk with India, looking at India's growing economic clout. So the reason why America is sanctioning India over Russian oil is not only because of its Russian policy, but also to sabotage India's future. America is going very hard on India is because it wants to pull India into its camp and use it against China. If you want to know what exactly America wants from India, then check out my video. The link is in the description. Now let's talk trade. The US wants to control India's trade through India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor or IMEC under Anglo dominance. Announced at the 2023 G20 summit, IMEC is a mega project linking India to Europe via the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Jordan and Greece. It's got rail, shipping and energy pipelines, aiming to cut shipping times by 40% compared to the Suez Canal. How it will be achieved in current world situation is a big question mark, because in this case also, America doesn't look genuine. IMEC relies on US-aligned countries like Israel and Saudi Arabia, which will align with American priorities over India's. If the US controls key infrastructure, it could theoretically influence what India exports or imports like energy or tech. America wants INSTC to collapse. INSTC is a trade corridor between Russia and India. If India is pulled into IMEC trade corridor, then America's influence on India will increase while Russia's influence will decrease. In order to sabotage INSTC, America recently brought peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, only to run its own agenda, which will put that region in more difficulty, as America will use that region to sabotage INSTC as well as use it against Russia and Iran. America has already sabotaged China's CPEC in Pakistan by completely pulling Pakistan into its camp. If you want to know more about INSTC, CPEC and IMEC, then again check my video, the link is in the description. Finally, the US stops India from buying Iranian oil, which is very beneficial to India despite India and Iran having a great relationship. India and Iran have deep ties, cultural, economic and strategic. Iran was a top oil supplier until 2018, providing 10 to 15% of India's import at low cost with favorable credit terms. The Chabahar port, developed with Indian investment, is a game changer, giving India access to Afghanistan and Central Asia without Pakistan. But US sanctions reimposed after Trump exited the Iran nuclear deal in 2018 crashed this trade. India's Iranian oil import dropped to nearly zero by 2019 to avoid US penalties, which could have hit its bank or scuttled defense deals. These sanctions aren't just about Iran's nuclear program, they're about US leverage. By cutting off Iranian oil, the US forced India to buy costlier oil from Gulf or US LNG, raising its import bill. That's not how partners behave. In 2018, Iranian oil was $5 to $10 cheaper per barrel than Brent crude, yet India kept its tie with Iran alive. In 2024, it signed a 10-year deal to operate Chabahar, and America granted exemption because it counters China's BRI. However, as CPEC dies out, America will probably not give any more exemptions to India, but there's one question to note here. Will Americans provide food and growth to Indians? If not, then why would America sabotage India's relationship with its partners? America is bullying India's sovereignty, which won't end well as America is a declining power. So is America really trying to Japanize India? Let's tie it all together. The US-India relationship is strong, however, politically it will decline from now on. There's $190 billion of trade which will continue to increase, defense deals like fighter jet co-production which will probably not gonna happen anytime soon, and Quad cooperation against China. But things are changing fast now. It looks like India is not interested in countering China, instead it wants to cooperate and partner with China. India's neutral stance on Ukraine, its Russian oil imports, and Iran ties clash with America's priorities. And moreover, America would prefer poor and weak India, which is easy to subjugate, rather than India, which has its own voice. Hence, they want to stop India before $6 trillion. The perfect way to do that is by controlling India's energy imports and its trade routes. The way America is approaching India is an outdated colonial approach which will not work, at least with India. The elite sitting in Washington must understand that India is not Japan and it's not 1985. India's economy, diplomacy, and BRICS Quad Balancing Act gives it room to maneuver, and America must respect that strategic autonomy. So what do you think? Is the US trying to hold India back, or is it just geopolitics as usual? Drop your thoughts below and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe and ring the bell for more. We'll keep digging into the big questions shaping our world. See you in the next one. Peace out.